Hey, what's going on there, guys? Good evening. It is your Earthmaster here on this beautiful Tuesday, June 7th date, 2022. It's about 7:44 p.m. California time. Latest quake shows a 1.1 earthquake into the area of Alaska. This activity comes after a rather deep, very deep actually, 6.5 earthquake striking into the Brazil region. Look at that. Very deep earthquake there on the globe. That ring raised off the surface there pretty nicely. Let's go ahead and check out a little bit of info on this earthquake that struck here into the Brazil area, where they are seeing a little bit of aftershock sequences there. By the way, it was 6.5 magnitude earthquake at 616 kilometers deep. That's extraordinarily deep. But is it the deepest earthquake ever recorded in this area? No. I'll show you that here in just a second. So a little bit of aftershock sequences there. Looks like about an hour later, a 4.8, but it's down there at about the same depth, about 603 kilometers into this region. As you know, South America has been really quiet over the past week or so. I've only seen a couple handful of quakes up and down the board here, but this one, super deep. All right, let's go ahead and look up the activity. I actually kind of pulled it up right here. This is the catalog here from the USGS showing some earthquake activity. I set this at 615 kilometers deep, 4.5 and above since about 1900. And I just put 1900 just for the year. Doesn't mean it really goes back that far, but so looking at the area where we've seen the 6.5 today, looks like there has been some deeper earthquake activity within that region, but it's not all that common. We don't see a whole lot of movement here that deep, or this large for that matter. So 630 kilometer deep, 7.1 back in 2018. This was just south of the area. We're also seeing a couple other smaller quakes there. We've seen a 7.6 in 2015, just south of today's 6.5 in the area of Peru, below Peru, at 620 kilometers. And looking back through history, I think the deepest one I came up on was that actually there's a 649 kilometer deep earthquake here. Actually, we got one right here, 650. Let me double check this, make sure. I could have swore that 649 one was the deal, but this one looks like it takes the trophy here. 6.1, 650 kilometers deep. Woo! Back in 1994. 650 kilometers, well south of the area that we've seen the movement today. So it happens, but it's not, like I say, it's not all that common, folks. There's not a whole lot of super deep earthquake activity like this in this region. So kind of a big deal. About the same time as that earthquake struck, we had some subsequent movement and adjustment over here on the Mariana Trench. About 2 minutes later, seen that 5.4 here in the northern Mariana Islands into the Trench region. Another deep earthquake here, 147 kilometers, not quite as deep as the Brazil earthquake, but deep nonetheless, and right smack dab after this earthquake. So just goes hand in hand with a little bit of adjustment over here. Even though these plates aren't all connected, you got a couple separate other smaller plates in between the South America region and the Pacific plate. Just goes to show you how one little adjustment can kind of trigger the domino effect thousands of miles away. So we had that 5.4 kick up, and then right about that time, we had a earthquake strike off into the Northern California region. This was originally a 2.8. Let's see here. Let me see where that went. Looks like they downgraded that pretty drastically. It was only a couple minutes following all this large-scale activity and deep movement that I just showed you. That 2.6 downgraded from a 2.8, but definitely made a little bit of adjustment up here along the southern end of the Cascadia. You know, who knows? Could trigger that thing. It's 322 years of built-up stress along the Cascadia. Could be tonight. Could still be another 100 years from now. We never know. I think it's earlier. I think we're going to see that thing pop here pretty soon. Tremor activity tonight was pretty quiet. Look at that. Nothing. Zip zero. Let me refresh this. Make sure, double check. No tremor tonight. After, I'd say about a week, 2 weeks of some pretty good tremor that kind of kicked up here. Since about the 15th or so, this shows April in there as well, but looking at the timestamp here, about mid-April or mid-May is when we've seen things really start to kick up with the tremor count number. And most of this count that you see here, 10,000 epicenters of tremor, is from this May time period here. So there was a lot going on here, a lot of subduction. And of course, I'm a firm believer the more tremor we have, ultimately, the more spring, the more you're winding up that spring along the entire section of the Cascadia. And we had quite a bit of tremor here, except for a little area here in Portland, or under Portland, I should say. But then again, this is the area that's seen kind of a little oddball earthquake activity yesterday, right? We've seen that movement kick up there around the Vancouver and the Portland area. That was the microquake that took place following a 2.7 within this area. Some pretty shallow earthquake movement around the Vancouver, Washington region, Portland, Oregon area. We also seen a little bit of swarming take place here this morning around the Mount Hood region. Nothing big, but there was a couple small microquakes kind of bouncing around here below the ground. Aside from that, we didn't see too much further activity within that area. And only one aftershock sequence there around the Vancouver region near Mill Plain, Washington, a 1.2, so much smaller than the 2.7 that struck there. All right, so what else we got here following this large-scale activity? We did see, of course, that aftershock sequences, or aftershock 4.8, pretty deep still. We haven't seen really too much going on here following that movement. Let me go back here a little bit and take a peek. Yeah, only a couple small earthquakes around the Puerto Rico area, a little bit in Nevada, Big Bear, California. So kind of waiting to see how this affects the rest of the plates here. I think, if anything, we still need to watch this area along the Japan Trench northward through the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, considering that deeper earthquake activity just a couple minutes after the South America deep earthquake movement. So that is a pretty deep earthquake for the Mariana Trench. It can get a little bit deeper, but we're just kind of waiting. I haven't really seen any spots where I'm thinking, wow, this is going to kick up, but still, we got to just be on guard. There's some large, deep movement taking place earlier today, or just earlier this evening, only about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, I believe. Okay, so what else we got here along the west coast? We're seeing a little broad area throughout the Nevada and the Sierra Nevada region today. See all that earthquake activity? This is just outside of the Long Valley supervolcano, which sits right about here. Not as big as Yellowstone, but still it's a supervolcano. But nothing specifically inside the Caldera region. Looks like just some activity outside through Nevada into the Walker Ridge area, and also south of Hawthorne, getting in on quite a bit of some very small microquakes, just very small. In fact, they only had one 2.6 in the Nevada area that was above that 2.5 threshold. Low activity throughout the Ridgecrest region. Garlock Fault looks pretty quiet tonight. Not a whole lot going on there. Got some movement up and down the San Andreas Fault, but all that is a microquake activity once again. And Southern California, well, a little bit of activity spread out throughout the southern part of the state. No major swarms to report, though, around the San Andreas Fault. Just, it's kind of quiet, too. If you look, nothing showing up here in the last hour. Some activity stretching up into Yellowstone earlier this morning and after this afternoon time frame as well. Had a 2.2 kick up in the Mammoth area, just outside the Yellowstone caldera. Let's go ahead and check out the latest Yellowstone map here of the recorded seismographs. And let me tell you, man, those deep earthquakes make quite a signature on the globe. So let's go ahead and check out the We could check out pretty much any of them, but we'll check out here where the swarming took place down here in the southern part. So here is the 6.5 down in South America, and I'm thinking, let me double check this here. Kind of looks like there was two distinct earthquakes, but the Mariana Islands one, let me see exactly what the magnitude was here again. That was a 5.4 earthquake. Now, most of the time, these 5-pointers won't show up over here in the Yellowstone area as far as the readings go. So I find that a little odd to see that type of signature. You guys see that? That was a pretty drawn out earthquake, but it almost looks like there was two earthquakes involved. Unless, let's see here, when did the earthquake strike up here in the Mammoth region? Let me see. Maybe that's kind of hiding in the shadow a little bit. This one kicked up a 2.2 at 2021 UTC time. So 2021 is going to be, I guess we'd have to spot it way up here where it took place because it's not that big of an earthquake. 2021 is going to be this 2.2 right here. So I'm thinking, there may have been two earthquakes there involved with that sequence, with that 6.5. There's just, you guys see that reading? I know we had the 5.4 in the Mariana Trench, but I don't know, unless this one was bigger. Most of the time we don't see that show up again on the Yellowstone station. So I'm going to look into that a little bit more, find out what's going on. But yeah, I see two. Do you guys see two? Kind of like two drawn out. Maybe there was one hidden in here. We had a similar experience last year with the earthquake in the South Sandwich Islands area. I think they had didn't they have like a 7 or something, and then all of a sudden come to find out there was an 8 included in there as well, or vice versa. I can't remember. But they had two large earthquakes, and one was covered up from the shadow, so to speak, the shadow signature of the first earthquake. And sometimes that can happen, but man, just mark my words, I think there was two earthquakes there. Local seismic activity showing up here earlier this afternoon around the Yellowstone area, and USGS did a pretty good job of reporting that activity so far up here in the map. There's some of that little swarming activity, a little activity up to the north. But far as within the last hour or so, it doesn't look too active. Here, look on this chart here, see? It looks like, even on this graph, here's the 6.5, it looks like there may have been another secondary 6-pointer somewhere, or a aftershock following that that South America quake this morning. So, all right, well, I don't want to lean on it too much, but I think there's something in there worth checking out. Okay, get back here to the West Coast, Intermountain West region. Not a whole lot going on. Texas as well. In fact, the only earthquake here within the last hour shows in Nevada, a Mina, Nevada area, with a 1.1. New Madrid zone, pretty quiet, folks. Eastern seaboard as well. Puerto Rico, not a whole lot going on. Got one earthquake here within the last hour, and one earthquake up here around the Puerto Rico Trench earlier. That one smack dab right on it. A 3.9 at 60 kilometers. So the subduction zone right here can get rather large in terms of, well, you know what, some mega quakes out there. Little activity prior to the 5.4 in the Mariana Islands area. Kind of seen a little push of earthquake activity throughout the Indonesia region, kind of stretching up towards the southern end of the Java Trench, but that's come to a halt now. So just going to be on guard, and we'll definitely keep an eye on it. I wanted to bring up Mount Lassen here and check out some of the seismograph stations. I tend to do it on occasion here, if I can get these things to work. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. It might be Might be... Here's a GPS displacement. I think we've checked that, and it's been pretty... there we go. Here's the recorded seismograph station. I'm not seeing really anything on there. It looks like a little S-wave. Well, I don't know if those are S-waves or some type of errors on that. Stand by for a second here. Let me check a different graph. Check this one out. This one looks a little bit more in tune. There's the 6.5. And again, look like a secondary, maybe even a third one. You guys see that? 1, 2, 3. I know the S waves come in a little bit late, but that kind of looks a little bit different than the S waves. So, but yeah, but as far as seismic activity here at Mount Lassen, not a whole lot going on. I pulled this up to show you guys. I wanted to check out the activity around the Clear Lake volcanic field in California because of the lack of activity. Let me go back here to this map. The lack of reporting here around Cobb Mountain. Looks like it's filled in a little bit today, but not much. Only a handful of quakes. So when I go to the Clear Lake volcanic field, everything's still green, and there's seismograph stations scattered about all over the place. But when I go to click on them, I'm not able to view any of these seismographs around this area. I don't know if anybody else is or not. I can click on them, but there's nothing showing up at all. It just gives the name of the station, but it should pop up the recorded data. I mean, Cobb Mountain sits right here, and this is where all the hydrothermal operations are. And right here, let me see if I can get some of these to pop up. Nope, nothing. So I don't know what's going on. Normally, you could check these out and see if there's actual earthquake activity out here going on, but I have no access to it right now, so I don't know what's going on here. Let's see what else we got here. Tremor map, like I mentioned. Well, let's see. Tremor map tonight was absolutely 0. Again, nada. But it had been pretty busy. Let me check out Mount St. Helens real quick, see if we got any continual earthquake activity up here, which is highly likely, considering the ongoing microquake swarm here over the past couple weeks or so. There's some of the S waves kicking up here. From the 6.5. There's a secondary one. See, I still think there was a secondary earthquake. I keep saying it, but we'll see what happens, right? We'll see if the USGS covers it. Let's see. Checking out the previous day here at Mount St. Helens, just for verification. And there we go. Not a whole lot overnight, or this morning and this afternoon time frame. Only a handful of quakes. Very small microquakes here, and there's not that many of them. At least this morning time frame and this afternoon. So overnight there was a little bit more, but looks like it's tapering off a little bit here at the Mount St. Helens region. Looking at the EMSC model just to verify a couple earthquakes. 5.4 there. And they had this at a 6.5 as well as the USGS. I don't see any other earthquakes listed here on the map that would be considered that secondary earthquake that I'm kind of puzzled about there on the seismographs. But yeah. Alrighty, what else we got here? Solar weather activity, pretty uneventful once again, folks, but we do cover it because it's part of the update, part of this channel. Looks like, well, according to these folks and according to our own eyes, the visible disk is nearly spotless. Solar activity could remain at very low levels during the next 24 hours while we await some new sunspots to emerge. A couple of potential regions are hiding behind the east limb and will begin to turn into view during the next few days. Excuse me. The last time the visible disk was officially spotless was December 2021. Alrighty. So other than that, things kind of mellowed. Not a whole lot going on the Aurora forecast. KP indexes, they're pretty low and minimal. No major coronal holes facing us. It looks like maybe here in the coming days we'll have a little one. We'll see how big that gets. A couple very small coronal holes, but I don't think they're going to provide us with anything at all. In fact, green across the board on the 3-day geomagnetic forecast. All right, guys, I'm going to bounce out of here. Just stay safe. Like I say, there's you know, when these deep, large earthquakes happen, whether it's Fiji, the Western Pacific Rim, or anywhere for that matter, there's definitely some major adjustment going on, and that is definitely a deep earthquake. Somewhat rare, you know. It definitely had some in the past, and a couple deeper ones, but we don't, like I say, we don't get them all that often. So just be on guard. And we'll chat you guys a little bit later on. Please stay safe out there and have a great night, everyone. Peace out.